You hear people say money isn't everything, that being broke builds character, that there's nobility in struggling. And that may sound nice, even poetic, to someone who's never had to sleep on the floor, eat from a can, or smile through pain just to keep going. But I'll tell you something I learned the hard way. Poverty is not noble. It's a thief. It doesn't just steal your money, it steals your dreams, your time, your confidence, your voice. And if you're not careful, it'll make you believe that's all you're ever going to have. I remember being in a place where lights were cut off, the fridge had nothing in it but a half-used bottle of mustard, and I had to warm up water on the stove just to take a bath. Not because I was lazy, not because I wasn't smart, but because life had knocked me down so many times, and I didn't yet know that I was allowed to fight back, that I was allowed to want more. People around me would say, at least you're alive, and yes, that's true, but just being alive and barely making it, those are two different things. The truth is, staying broke doesn't make you morally superior, it doesn't make you wise, it makes you exhausted. It makes you accept less than you deserve. And sometimes it even makes you bitter. Because when you can't see a way out, you begin to resent anyone who can. And more. That's where I was. I was watching others succeed, wondering what they had that I didn't. I realized they had a different mindset. They had decided that financial struggle wasn't going to be their permanent story. You see, you don't get rich just to buy cars and clothes. That's not the goal. You get rich so you can walk into a store and not check your bank balance. You get rich so your kids never have to know what it feels like to go to school with holes in their shoes. You get rich so you can help your mother retire or put your brother through college or fund a dream you've been sitting on for years. You get rich because poverty takes too much from you and it's time to take something back. I had to unlearn so many things just to begin believing I was worthy of wealth. And that's the hardest part. Not the work, not the hustle, not even the failures. The hardest part is convincing yourself that your story doesn't have to end in struggle. I remember being called educable mentally retarded. I remember standing in front of classrooms terrified, not because I had nothing to say, but because I didn't believe I was allowed to say it. And yet, piece by piece, day by day, I rebuilt myself. I read every book I could find. I listened to people who had been where I was. I soaked up wisdom like my life depended on it. Because it did, and so does yours. Your life depends on you breaking out of the illusion that poverty is okay. It's not okay. You don't belong there. You never did. You may have been born in it, but you don't have to die in it. There's greatness inside you, but it needs oxygen. It needs belief, and it needs resources. So don't let anyone tell you to be content with surviving. You weren't built for survival mode. You were built to rise. And this moment, this right now, this is where it starts. I want you to think for a moment about the kind of problems that keep you awake at night. Not the ones that come from wild dreams or ambitious plans, but the ones that feel like heavy chains around your neck. Bills piling up, rent due, calls you don't want to answer because you know it's another debt collector. Those are not just problems, they're symptoms. And money, whether we like to admit it or not, solves them. Now, some people get uncomfortable when you say that. They'll say things like, well, money isn't the answer to everything. And they're right. Money can't buy character, integrity, love, or purpose. But let's be honest, money buys time. It buys options. It removes the chaos. It brings a sense of control to a life that's felt like a storm for far too long. When you can't pay for your child's medicine, money matters. When your car breaks down and you've got no way to get to work, money matters. When you're standing in a grocery store counting coins and trying to figure out what to put back on the shelf, money matters. I've lived that. I've felt the weight of being broke. not just financially, but emotionally. I felt what it's like to sit in a dark room because the electricity got cut off, and I didn't want my children to see me cry. Not because I didn't care, not because I wasn't trying, but because trying doesn't always pay the bills when you're missing a piece of the formula. And the truth is, the formula doesn't just involve hard work, it involves understanding how money works, how to attract it, how to multiply it, and most importantly, how to believe that you deserve to have it. One of the most transformational moments in my life came when I realized that being poor wasn't just a lack of money. It was a mindset that had been passed down, and if I didn't break it, it would become an inheritance. That was unacceptable to me. I didn't want to pass down survival to my children. I wanted to pass down peace. I wanted to pass down abundance. And that meant I had to change my relationship with money. I had to stop seeing it as evil and start seeing it as a tool, because that's all money is, it's a tool. And if you don't learn to use it, someone else will use it against you. Now, I'm not saying money will fix every area of your life, but it will give you the breathing room to fix what matters. It will give you the power to say yes to things that help you grow and no to things that drain your spirit. It will allow you to move from survival to service, to step into your purpose without the constant panic of financial fear in your chest. So don't let anyone make you feel guilty for wanting to get rich. You're not being greedy. You're being responsible. You're being bold enough to break the chains your parents wore, your grandparents wore, and that you were handed without consent. And now you stand at the edge of a new reality, a new standard, not just for you, but for everyone who comes after you. And that's what wealth really is. It's not just money in your pocket. It's the ability to walk into tomorrow without fear. And if you can buy that kind of peace, then yes, money matters. There's a moment in every person's life when they realize no one is coming to save them. It's a sobering realization. At first it feels heavy, even unfair. You look around and wonder why others seem to have help, why some people get a break while you're stuck clawing your way forward. But eventually, if you're wise, that moment becomes powerful, because you realize that if no one's coming, then you're free to step up. You stop waiting, you start building, you take responsibility not just for your bills or your behavior, but for your future. There was a time when I waited for someone to give me a hand, waited for the right connection, the right time, the right miracle. I thought maybe someone would see my pain, see my hunger, and offer a ladder out of the pit I was in. But nobody did. And the longer I waited, the deeper the hole seemed to get. I was working hard, sure, but I was working with the hope that someone else would open the door. Then I realized something that changed my life. I had to build the door myself. It's not easy. When you've been told you're not smart enough, not good enough, not talented enough, it's hard to imagine you could be the one who makes it. I was labeled as someone who couldn't learn, told by teachers I'd never amount to much, told by life over and over again that I should settle. But something inside me kept saying there has to be more. And I made a decision: no more waiting. I wasn't going to sit in the audience of my own life hoping someone would give me permission to succeed. I was going to walk on stage and take the mic. Success is not reserved for the lucky. It's reserved for the relentless, the ones who decide that personal responsibility is not a burden, it's a blessing. It means you have the power. It means you're not at the mercy of someone else's approval, someone else's schedule, or someone else's belief in you. And that kind of freedom, That's where wealth begins, because wealth isn't just about dollars. It's about owning your time, owning your choices, owning your destiny. You've got to stop waiting for perfect. You've got to stop waiting for permission. You don't need someone to tap you on the shoulder and tell you it's your turn. It's been your turn. You've just been acting like a spectator in your own story. Life is short, and if you keep handing over the pen, someone else will keep writing your chapters. You've got to grab it. Write your story with the intensity of someone who knows this chance might not come again, and you will get knocked down. You will question if you have what it takes, but I promise you this: once you stop waiting and start moving, life starts responding. Doors don't just open, they appear. The right people start showing up, not because they're saving you, but because they're drawn to your fire. That fire inside you, that's yours to protect, that's yours to fuel. And that fire, if you let it burn long enough, bright enough, will light the way, not just for you, but for everyone who thought they couldn't do it either. And when that day comes, when you look back and realize you built it all, piece by piece, not because someone saved you, but because you saved yourself, that's the kind of wealth no one can take away. Most people go through life with gifts they never unwrap, talents they never touch, skills they never develop. Not because they don't have anything special to offer, but because they're too busy trying to survive to even look inside themselves. And that's the tragedy, because right now you already have something that could change your entire life. You just haven't figured out how to use it. You need to stop underestimating the value of your mind. If you learn how to monetize what's in your head, you'll never be broke again. See, I used to believe the only way out of struggle was to work harder. I'd show up early, stay late, do everything right, and still go home broke. Still go home wondering if I was doing something wrong. And the truth is, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I just wasn't doing the right thing for me. I was trying to fit into someone else's system when I had something original inside me that I hadn't even tried to use yet. And I'm telling you, the moment I stopped trying to be like everybody else and started asking, what do I already know? What can I do with what I've already lived through? Everything changed. You've got value, real value, not someday, not after another degree or another training or another round of approval. Now, you've been through things that gave you perspective. You've developed instincts. You've faced hard times and learned how to adapt. And buried underneath all that surviving is a blueprint for thriving. If you're willing to believe that what you know is worth something, you've got a story someone needs to hear, a skill someone needs to learn, a voice someone needs to follow. You just haven't turned it into income yet. People often think wealth only comes from external things, stock markets, real estate, fancy business models, and those things matter. But do you know what's more valuable than all of that? A sharp, disciplined, creative mind. That's the real estate that never depreciates. That's the stock that can't crash. I had to teach myself how to think differently. I had to study success, read books I could barely understand at first, and sit in rooms where I didn't feel like I belonged. Until I did, until I understood that wealth begins when you start investing in your own thinking. No one ever told me that I had a gift. I had to discover it on my own. Speaking wasn't something I planned. It was something that found me when I finally stood up and told the truth about my journey. And the more I spoke, the more I saw people lean in. not because I was polished, but because I was real, because they could see their struggle in my words. And before I even realized it, I had turned pain into power, and that power became my path. What you've survived has value. What you've studied, even in silence, has value. What you dream about doing, even if it scares you, has value. But value alone isn't enough. You've got to move. You've got to package it, present it, and put it out into the world. Not tomorrow, now. Because while you're waiting for perfect, somebody else is already monetizing a version of the idea you're afraid to try. And I'm not saying this to pressure you. I'm saying it because I know what happens when you finally give yourself permission to use your mind like a weapon instead of a weight. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to stop hiding the parts of you that could lead to freedom. Everything you need is already inside you. It's time to use it. Every single day you delay, you're not just standing still, you're falling behind. Time doesn't wait. Opportunity doesn't pause. Life keeps moving, whether you do or not. And when you wake up one day, older, worn down, looking back on all the things you could have done, should have done, would have done if only you'd started sooner, that's a kind of pain no one warns you about. That pain is called regret. And unlike failure, regret doesn't teach you much. It just weighs you down. There was a time when I kept saying, next year. I told myself, when things settle down, I'll start. When I get a little more money saved, when I feel more confident. I kept pushing my dreams into the distance like they were on layaway. But life doesn't reward intentions. It rewards action. It rewards the ones who start scared, the ones who begin without having all the pieces but trust that they'll find them along the way. I learned the hard way that comfort and growth don't live in the same place. If you want to change your life, you've got to stop waiting for the perfect time. The perfect time is a myth. And while you're waiting for it to show up, so is your future. You lose more from hesitation than you ever will from trying. I've failed plenty of times. I've spoken and stumbled. I've chased ideas that didn't work. I've invested in myself when it didn't make sense on paper. But every one of those attempts, every one of those lessons, they paid off later. They shaped me, and they got me closer to the version of myself I knew I could be. But the days I did nothing, the weeks I sat still, thinking and rethinking, waiting and worrying, those days gave me nothing. Just dust, just silence, just another reminder that wishing is not a wealth strategy. I once heard someone say, a year from now, you'll wish you had started today. And that stuck with me, because it's not just about money, it's about momentum. Every day you build, you grow. Every small step compounds. That's how it works. It's not magic, it's math. You do a little and a little more, and suddenly you've built something that looks like success. But if you keep hitting pause, if you keep talking yourself out of moving forward, you'll stay stuck at the start line, watching everyone else run by. The real cost of inaction isn't just in what you miss, it's in who you don't become. The version of you that's bold, confident, successful, generous, that person is waiting for you on the other side of your hesitation. But they can't show up unless you do. You've got to give them a chance to exist, and you do that by starting. Not when it's easy, not when it's clear, now. Time will pass anyway. A year will go by whether you take the leap or not, but imagine what that year could look like if you started today. Imagine how much better things could be, not instantly, but gradually, steadily, unshakably better. That's the power of momentum. That's the reward of choosing action over and you don't need a perfect plan. You just need to take the first step. before the fear grows, before the doubt wins, before another year slips through your fingers like sand. Because this is your life, and every minute counts. There's something deeply unsettling about being at the mercy of other people's decisions. To have your hours, your income, your future dictated by someone who doesn't know your story, doesn't see your potential, and frankly, doesn't care about your dreams. And too many people spend their entire lives under that weight, afraid to step out, afraid to stand up, afraid to take control. But I'll tell you this, if you don't take command of your own economy, someone else will write your financial story for you, and it won't have a happy ending. I know what it feels like to be trapped, to clock into a job that doesn't feed your soul, just your bills, to feel like your time is being traded for just enough money to keep you tired, but not enough to ever set you free. I've been there, working hard, doing the right things, being loyal to a system that was never designed to reward me, a system that values your effort just enough to keep you from quitting, but never enough to let you win. That's not security. That's a slow suffocation. And one day I had to ask myself a hard question. What if the real risk wasn't in leaving that system, but in staying in it? The day I decided to build something of my own was the day I began to breathe again. I didn't have all the answers. I didn't have investors or a perfect strategy. What I had was hunger, hunger for ownership, hunger for peace of mind, hunger to stop depending on the unpredictable mercy of a paycheck that could disappear with one decision above my head. I wanted leverage. I wanted freedom. I wanted to finally feel what it meant to be in control of my life. And yes, it was uncomfortable. Yes, it was hard. I failed. I stumbled. I made mistakes that cost me. But every step was mine. Every lesson I owned. And the victories, those were sweeter because they were built from nothing but grit and vision. And here's what I discovered along the way. Wealth isn't about how much you earn, it's about how much control you have. Real wealth is waking up when you're done sleeping, working because you choose to, and knowing your value doesn't depend on someone else's permission. You have the ability to create that kind of power. You have the ability to build your own economy, your own income streams, your own empire. But it starts with one decision: to stop giving your power away to a system that's not designed to elevate you. That system isn't going to suddenly wake up one day and reward you. It's not going to one day say, now's your turn. You have to say it to yourself. You weren't born to beg for raises. You weren't born to fear layoffs. You weren't born to live in the tight margins of someone else's spreadsheet. You were born to create, to lead, to build something that reflects the fire inside you. And that doesn't happen while waiting on a paycheck. That happens when you stop living from paycheck to paycheck and start building from purpose to profit. So no more playing small. No more waiting for someone to give you a shot. Give yourself the shot. Build your foundation, create your own economy, because once you do, no one can take it from you. That's real wealth. And that's what you were always meant to have.